Hi guys, and today I'm talking about the Alexander Superial 1 tenor mouthpiece. Now this mouthpiece is the creation of one Tom Superial, who is a great sax player himself and who's collabed with many great players along the way, mainly in conjunction with his really famous reed line. So we're talking about the Alexander Superial reeds, which you may have all heard of, really great reeds in different cuts that we sell in the store. But going back to Tom for a minute, he's a great player, a great talker, a great sort of historian on the subject of the saxophone, has great knowledge. And the players that he's collabed with over the years, the likes of Lovano, Joe Henderson, Mike Brecker, Bob Berg, Dave Liebman, all these great players that he's still in contact with, those who are still with us. And his project over several years has been to put his heart and soul into creating a single mouthpiece, not necessarily a range, but just one mouthpiece that really points to that classic jazz tradition of mid-last century, I suppose, trying to find, like, if you like, the perfect mouthpiece that really hits the sweet spot for people who want to play in this tradition, but also that sort of has a calling to more modern styles of playing. It can work in modern settings, more contemporary settings, but the heart and soul of the mouthpiece is in that jazz tradition. And this is the mouthpiece that he's created for that purpose. And before I really get into it properly, I have to say it's a wonderful mouthpiece. Let's just look at it from an aesthetic point of view, first of all. Down here, I have a couple more that I've prepared earlier. This is a 9-star that has literally just jetted in today that I'm excited about. I'm going to try a little bit later on during this video. But just look how beautiful this mouthpiece is. So it's very traditional in its sort of construction. It's got a large chamber, a subtle rollover baffle going on. It's made from a high quality sort of bar ebonite, German bar ebonite, with this red marble infused into the finish to give it this beautiful look. And something else I've never seen on a mouthpiece like this before is this sort of ornate collar right here at the shank point. I mean, just beautiful. It's so sharp, and I'm not sure if there's sort of necessarily anything going on with the tone there, but just as a work of art to behold in front of you, that is something quite special. So that's the sort of aesthetics of the mouthpiece. In terms of its kind of quality of construction, shall we say, I mean, it's CNC machined like good sort of premium mouthpieces are these days, but it's beautifully evenly finished. You know, that the rails are accurate and even left to right, as is the tip. Everything kind of looks perfect about it. It's very smooth inside. So in terms of its construction, beautiful. I just gave you a little bit of a playing clip there at the start to give you an idea of the sound, and I'll play it a little bit more now. But you can hear it's got that sort of warm, a kind of darkish tone, but one that sort of has a presence to it. It's not a fluffy sound, it's not a tubby sound. It kind of pushes through. So let's get going and give it a blast right now. Yes, I love this mouthpiece. Bit of cheesecake for you there. Hopefully, as you can hear in that demo there, it's got a lovely centered sound, and can go really nice and soft and retain, you know, a quality of sound when it goes quiet. It's very sort of pleasant sound. And the sort of A section, again, when I came back to that, I tried to play quiet dynamic to sort of show that tonality there. And also, when you hit those top notes, I find in the sort of second register, so sort of A's and B's, they don't go thin, you know, there's a real kind of depth and kind of solidarity behind the sound. It's not a sort of brittle sound. Sometimes it can just get a bit kind of palm key in that area. But for me, there's a sort of fullness there, and it carries on all the way through to the top and through altissimo too. I know I didn't demo any altissimo there, but believe me, it does go up there very nicely. And then onto those bottom notes as well. I'll just show you a couple of real sort of low notes. A nice kind of depth of tone, and everything kind of comes alive. It's very beefy at the bottom there. So just a great mouthpiece, and you know, that's my take on it, but you don't have to listen to me. Listen to what those great players say about it, current players who are using this mouthpiece. So as I mentioned earlier on, Tom is working with the likes of Joe Lovano, who plays a 10-star mouthpiece. That's very typical for him. And I believe he said, try it, it may change your life. Then you got Dave Liebman, he said, this mouthpiece is going to make history. You know, all these jazz greats who are currently on this mouthpiece, it kind of speaks for itself, really. And talking about the tip opening, this piece that I've got here is just a 7-star, but for me still gets me a very big sound. And it comes down to each individual player as to their needs and what works for them. But the tip range that is available does go up to a 10-star. We're currently stocking up to a 9-star at the moment. That's not to say that we can't get 10 stars in. And in fact, one has just flown through to us today via airmail. In fact, we've got a couple of these guys, and I'm just going to give it a try in a little bit just to see the differences between 7-star, 8-star and 9-star. For my money, normally what happens when I go up through the tips personally is I lose a little bit of kind of focus in the sound. Yes, it can get louder, you know, when you really push it, but you get different colors in the sound as you move through tip openings. So, and from what I hear, when you do move up the tip openings, it does sort of open a new sort of tonal palette sort of possibility, if you like. So I'm very curious to do that. But straight away, just putting on this 7-star with this kind of 3-soft reed, and also I'm just premiering this rather expensive and beautiful looking Silverstein hexa ligature right now that just seems to be working a treat. So just a lovely setup overall I've got going on here that I'm very happy with this morning. So I'm now just going to flick mouthpieces and just see tonally what difference it makes migrating from a 7-star through an 8-star and then a 9-star. I'll try and keep it brief. Oh, interesting. It's definitely a bigger blow, and if anything, I kind of found it a little bit brighter when I really pushed it, which was interesting because I found the sound really big on the 7-star, but perhaps the sound was just a little bit more enclosed on the 7-star. Not to say that it wasn't a big sound, but with this one here, the sound just opens up just a little bit more, and it's still got that sort of, you know, all the nuances there. You can still play nice and quiet, but mainly I was just demonstrating that sort of extra kind of volume that was sort of on tap. A little bit more resistance involved on the 8-star. You know, you have to have the airstream for it. But yeah, lovely. Going to be curious to see what happens with the 9-star now. great stuff. So the resistance is definitely increasing, but at the same time, it's not like a really hard blow. It's something that you can definitely invest yourself into. It takes a little bit more work, but the tonal benefits are definitely there. I mean, I'm feeling, again, more kind of colour in the sound that really opens out, just sort of even more so than the 8-star does. What I'm saying though is, I know it sounds like it's a progression of quality that I'm talking about here, 7-star to 8-star to 9-star. It's not necessarily the case. I'm just finding that there are more possibilities when you really push the sound on these higher tip mouthpieces, and they may really work for a lot of players. But I think you can get used to whatever it is that sort of suits you, as it were. So for me on the 7-star, I just kind of open out a little bit more here, and I still find I can get all the same colours there, and then for me it's just slightly less tiring. So that for me is a more suitable mouthpiece around the 7-star, possibly up to 8-star, or maybe in between. So it's an interesting debate, the whole tip opening business. I know I've got onto a slightly different subject, but I think it is nice to showcase what you can get from different tip openings on a real sort of high class mouthpiece such as this. Is something that Tom has spoken to me a lot about on the emails, and they're all great. You know, you can hear they're all blowing brilliantly, but they just give you a different player experience, and they all have those nuances and colours in them. So, you know, we're talking here a high quality premium mouthpiece that's going to be sitting on our shelves for many years to come, with great success, I feel. Please come in and try these today in our London store. Check them out online as well. You can buy them based on what you're hearing on the video here, I guess. And that's it for today, folks. So hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thanks.